Millionaire CEO finds out. His arranged bride is a virgin. She never expected what he did next. Isabella's hands trembled as she sat on the edge of the bed in the penthouse master suite, still in her wedding dress. Elias stood by the window, loosening his tie, the city lights casting shadows across his face. "We should discuss expectations," he said, his voice businesslike even now. "I don't expect you to—" She interrupted, her voice barely a whisper. "I've never done this before." He turned, confused. "Been married?" "Neither have I." "No, I mean, I've never—" Her face burned with embarrassment. "I'm inexperienced. Completely." The silence stretched between them. She waited for his reaction. Anger, mockery, disappointment. She'd heard his reputation. The ruthless CEO who took what he wanted. Instead, Elias walked over slowly, knelt in front of her, this powerful man in his designer suit kneeling before her, and took her shaking hands in his. "Isabella, look at me." When she did, his eyes held something she'd never expected. Kindness. "You owe me nothing. Not tonight. Not ever. This marriage may be arranged, but your body, your choices, those are yours alone." She stared at him, this stranger who was now her husband, and realized she'd completely misjudged who he really was. But to understand how they got here, we need to go back 3 months. Before we dive into this emotional journey, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more stories about unexpected love and second chances. 3 months earlier, Elias Thornton stood in his father's study, the same mahogany-paneled room where he'd been summoned for every major disappointment of his father's life. Today would be no different. "You're 35 years old," Richard Thornton said, not looking up from his newspaper. "Your mother, God rest her soul, had given me 3 children by that age." "Times have changed, Father." "The need for an heir hasn't." Richard finally looked up, his eyes cold. "You have until the end of the year to marry someone appropriate, someone from our circle. And if I refuse? Then the board votes on a new CEO. Your cousin Marcus has been quite eager." Elias's jaw clenched. He'd built Thornton Industries from a failing company into a global empire. While Marcus had been playing golf, Elias had been working 20-hour days. This is blackmail. This is business. Everything is business, son. Even marriage. Elias left the study with 6 months to find a bride. Not a wife, a bride. The distinction mattered. A wife implied love, partnership, choice. A bride was just another acquisition. Meanwhile, across the city, Isabella Hayes sat in a law office, watching her father sign away the last of their assets. "There has to be another way," she said quietly. "There isn't," James Hayes replied, his hands shaking slightly. 20 years of building his business, gone in 18 months of bad investments and worse luck. The lawyer cleared his throat. "There is one option. Richard Thornton called yesterday." Isabella's father perked up. "Richard Thornton? His son needs a wife, a respectable woman from a good family. The Thorntons would be willing to assist with your debts in exchange for a marriage arrangement." Isabella felt her world tilt. "You're selling me?" "It's not like that," her father said quickly. "It would be a business arrangement. 1 year minimum. You'd be well taken care of. I'd be a purchased bride. You'd be saving our family from ruin." Isabella looked at her father, this man who'd once been so proud, now broken by circumstance. Her mother had died 2 years ago. Her younger brother was in his final year of medical school. If they lost everything now. "When do I meet him?" The relief on her father's face made her feel sick. The first meeting was arranged like a business merger, a private dining room at the Thornton Hotel, lawyers present, terms discussed like she was a commodity. Elias arrived 15 minutes late, didn't apologize, and spent most of the dinner on his phone. When he finally looked at her, his assessment was clinical. "You're younger than I expected." "You're ruder than I expected," Isabella replied before she could stop herself. For the first time, Elias actually looked at her, really looked, not at the desperate family or the financial situation, at her. "Fair enough," he said, a ghost of a smile crossing his face. "Let's be clear about expectations. I need a wife for appearances, board meetings, charity galas, family functions. In private, we'll live separate lives." How romantic. Romance wasn't part of the deal, Miss Hayes. "No, just my life." "1 year," he said, his tone softer. "After that, if you want to leave, you'll have enough money to start over anywhere. And if I don't want to leave?" He studied her. "Why would you stay?" "I wouldn't. I'm just curious about your contingency planning." Another almost smile. "Then we renegotiate terms." They were married 6 weeks later, a grand affair with 500 guests, none of whom were actually friends. Isabella wore her mother's altered wedding dress, the only thing of value she had left. Elias wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people's cars. The ceremony was efficient. The reception was networking. The photos would make lovely press releases. And then came the wedding night. The penthouse was exactly what Isabella expected. Modern, cold, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble everything, art that looked important but felt empty. "Your room is the second master suite," Elias said, leading her down a hallway. "Full privacy. The staff knows not to enter without permission." "We're not sharing a room?" "Did you want to?" The question hung between them. "No," she said quietly. "I just thought, for appearances, what we do in private is our business." He turned to leave, then paused. "There's a credit card on your dresser, no limit, buy whatever you need." "I don't want your money." "It's not my money, it's our money, legally speaking." "Legally speaking, this isn't a marriage." "No," he agreed. "It's not." He started to leave again when Isabella spoke. Shouldn't we? I mean, don't you expect?" That's when she told him. About her inexperience, about waiting for something that meant something, about being 24 and untouched in a world that seemed to mock innocence. What would you do in Elias's position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Elias's response changed everything. His kneeling, his kindness, his promise that she owed him nothing. "But surely you have needs," Isabella said, confused by his restraint. "I'm 35 years old, Isabella. I know how to control myself. Your body isn't part of our contract." Most men would disagree. "I'm not most men." "No," she said softly. "You're not." He stood to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I think it's admirable. Waiting for something real. Most people, myself included, gave that up too easily." "What did you give up?" "The belief that real exists." The first month was awkward. They moved around each other like polite ghosts. Breakfast at different times, dinner often alone. When they did eat together, conversation was limited to schedules and logistics. But Isabella noticed things. How Elias worked until 3 a.m. most nights. How he forgot to eat unless reminded. How he stood at the windows sometimes, looking lost despite owning everything he could see. She started leaving tea on his desk. No words, just Earl Grey with 1 sugar, the way she'd seen him take it at their wedding. The first time, he seemed confused. The second time, suspicious. By the third time, he simply said, "Thank you." Small words, but they cracked something open. He noticed things too. How she treated his staff with genuine kindness, remembering names and birthdays. How she read actual books, not just social media. How she hummed when she thought no one was listening. Old songs, sad songs, beautiful songs. One night he found her crying in the library. She tried to hide it, but her eyes were red, her breathing shaky. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "Isabella." She held up a necklace, simple, delicate, clearly old. "This was my mother's. I have to sell it tomorrow. It's the last piece I have, but my brother's tuition." "How much do you need?" "I don't want your money. It's not charity. Your brother is family now, legally speaking. Legally speaking, we're strangers." "Then let a stranger help." She looked at him, this man who confused her more each day. Why? Because you bring me tea. It wasn't the real reason, and they both knew it. But it was easier than admitting the truth that somewhere between the contract signing and the quiet evenings, they'd started caring. Elias paid the tuition that night. The full 4 years, not just the semester. Isabella kept her mother's necklace. "Thank you," she said at breakfast. "You're welcome. I'll pay you back." "No, you won't." "Elias, Isabella, money is the one thing I have too much of. Let me use it for something good. Student debt isn't your responsibility. Neither is my tea, but you make it anyway." That shut her up and made her smile. The first real smile he'd seen from her. "You have a beautiful smile," he said without thinking. She blushed. He looked away. The moment passed, but something had shifted. They started having dinner together. Actual conversations, not just logistics. "Why did you really agree to this?" Elias asked one night. "My family needed help." "That's not the only reason." Isabella set down her fork. "I was tired of fighting, of pretending everything was fine when it was falling apart. This seemed easier." "Is it easier?" "Some days, when you're kind, when you treat me like a person instead of a problem." "You're not a problem." "Then what am I?" He didn't have an answer. Not yet. "Why did you agree?" she asked. "My father's ultimatum." "That's not the only reason." He smiled slightly. "Touché." "Well, I was lonely," he admitted. "Successful and lonely. I thought having someone here, even a stranger, would be better than the silence." "Is it?" "Yes. Especially when you hum. You hear that? The walls aren't that thick." She blushed again. He found he liked making her blush. 2 months into their marriage, Elias got sick, really sick. A flu that knocked him flat, which was rare for a man who treated his body like a machine. Isabella found him collapsed in his office, burning with fever. "I'm fine," he muttered as she helped him to bed. "You're not fine. You're human." Same difference. She stayed with him, brought soup, medicine, cool cloths for his fever, read to him from one of her books when he couldn't sleep. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, delirious. "Because you're my husband. Only on paper. Paper husbands still get soup." When his fever broke 2 days later, he woke to find her asleep in the chair beside his bed, her hand resting near his on the blanket. Not touching, but close. He studied her face, peaceful in sleep, kind even in rest. When had she become beautiful to him? Not just pretty, but beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. She stirred, eyes opening slowly. "You're awake," she said, smiling. "You stayed. You needed someone." "I haven't needed someone in years." "Everyone needs someone, Elias, even CEOs." "Especially CEOs," he corrected. "Do you believe love can grow from arrangement? Let me know in the comments." Things changed after that. The walls came down slowly, brick by brick. Elias started coming home earlier. Isabella started joining him in his office, working on her own projects while he handled business. "What are you writing?" he asked one night. "Nothing important. It keeps you up until 2 a.m. It must be important. It's a children's book about a lonely dragon who learns to trust again." "Can I read it?" "It's not ready." "Nothing ever is." She showed him the story. He read it carefully, seriously, the way he read contracts worth millions. "It's beautiful," he said finally. "The dragon reminds me of someone." "Who?" He looked at her meaningfully. "Oh. Publish it." "It's just a silly story." "It's not silly, it's honest. The world needs more honest." She kissed his cheek, quick, impulsive, immediately embarrassing. "Sorry, Don't apologize. It was inappropriate. It was nice." They looked at each other, the air charged with possibility. "Elias, I know. No rush, no pressure. Just nice." 3 months passed. Their arrangement had become something neither of them had a name for. Not quite marriage, not quite friendship, but something in between. The company gala was their first real test. 500 people watching them, analyzing their marriage, looking for cracks. "Smile," Elias whispered as they entered. I am smiling. Smile like you mean it. How do you smile like you mean it when you don't? You think about something that makes you happy. What do you think about? Lately? Tea at midnight, humming through walls, soup when I'm sick. Isabella's fake smile became real. The evening was exhausting. People asking invasive questions, making snide comments about her family's fall from grace, wondering aloud what Elias saw in her. Money, obviously, one woman stage whispered. Isabella escaped to the balcony, needing air. Elias found her there. I'm sorry about them. It's fine. It's not. They're not wrong. I am here for money. Is that all? She turned to look at him. I don't know anymore. I don't either. They stood close, the city lights below them, the party behind them. Isabella, I need to tell you something. What? I'm falling for you. The words hung in the air. You can't. I know. This is a business arrangement. I know. We agreed. I know what we agreed, but agreements can be renegotiated. Elias, I'm not asking for anything, I'm just telling you the truth. You deserve the truth. Isabella felt tears building. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. You've had relationships before. I've had transactions. This is different. How? Because with you, I want to be better. Not richer, not more powerful. Better. She was crying now, quiet tears that he gently wiped away. Can we go home? She asked. Of course. They left the gala early, rumors be damned. In the car, Isabella made a decision. I'm falling for you too, she whispered. Elias's hand found hers. What do we do about it? I don't know. We could try something radical. What? We could see where it goes. That's terrifying. Terrifying seems to be our specialty. That night, they sat on the couch, not his side, not her side, but together in the middle, talking until dawn about everything and nothing, about fears and dreams, about the past that shaped them and the future they might build. I want to take you somewhere, Elias said as the sun rose. Where? My family's vineyard, where my parents met, where my mother taught me that love was real before she died and my father forgot. When? Tomorrow. Today. Now if you want. Okay. The vineyard was 2 hours outside the city, hidden in hills that rolled like green waves. The house was old, warm in a way the penthouse could never be. This is beautiful, Isabella breathed. My mother designed it, said homes should hug you when you enter. She was right. They walked through the vines, Elias telling stories about his childhood, the happy parts, before his mother's cancer, before his father became cold. She would have liked you, he said. You think? She valued kindness over everything, said it was the only currency that mattered. Your father forgot that. He forgot a lot of things when she died. How to laugh, how to love, how to see people as more than chess pieces. You're not like him. I was becoming like him, before you. They stopped walking, facing each other among the vines. Isabella, I need to tell you something else. What? I transferred half my shares to you. In the company. She stepped back, shocked. What? When? The day after our wedding. But why? Because I knew even then that you were different, that you weren't here for the money, that you deserved security that didn't depend on my whims. Elias, that's billions of dollars. It's half of what's mine. What's mine is yours. That's what marriage means. But this isn't a real marriage. Isn't it? He stepped closer. We live together. We care for each other. We're falling in love. What's more real than that? The choosing, she said softly. Real marriage is choosing each other, not being forced by circumstances. Then choose me, he said simply. Not the contract, not the arrangement. Me, and I'll choose you. What about your father? The company requirement? The requirement was to marry. We're married. Everything else, the love, the partnership, the future, that's ours to decide. Isabella looked at this man who'd started as a stranger, become a friend, and was now offering to be everything. "I need to tell you something," she said. "What?" "I love you." The words hung between them like a bridge. "But," she continued, "I'm still scared of intimacy, of not being enough, of this all being too good to be real." "I love you too," Elias said, "and I'm scared of the same things. But maybe we can be scared together." "Is that enough?" "It's everything." He kissed her then. Not like their wedding kiss, performative and cold. This was warm, gentle, real. A promise rather than a production. When they pulled apart, Isabella was crying again. "Happy tears?" Elias asked. "The happiest." They stayed at the vineyard for a week, learning each other in a way the city hadn't allowed, cooking together, walking through morning mist, talking until their voices were hoarse. On their last night, sitting under stars that seemed close enough to touch, Elias asked, "What do you want, Isabella? Really want?" "A real marriage. Children someday. A home that feels like your mother's house. Love that grows rather than fades." "I want that too." "Really? With you?" "Yes." "Even though I came with a price tag?" "Everyone comes with a price. Yours just happened to be monetary. Mine was emotional. All the walls you had to break down." "You're worth it," she said simply. "So are you." That night, Isabella made a choice, not from obligation or expectation, but from love. She went to his room, nervous but certain. "Are you sure?" Elias asked, his hands gentle on her face. "I've never been more sure of anything." "We can wait." "I don't want to wait. I want you. I choose you." What happened next was tender, patient, sacred. Two people choosing each other fully, completely, without reservation. Afterward, lying in his arms, Isabella said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For waiting. For seeing me as more than innocence to take or a contract to fulfill. Thank you for seeing me as more than a cold CEO with too much money and too little heart. You have so much heart, you just hide it. Not from you. Not anymore. Subscribe if you believe respect is the foundation of real love." They returned to the city different, married now in truth, not just law. The change was obvious to everyone, the way they looked at each other, the casual touches, the private smiles. "You're glowing," her father said at a family dinner. "I'm happy." With him, the arrangement? With my husband, my choice. James Hayes had the grace to look ashamed. "I'm sorry for putting you in that position." "I'm not. It led me to him." "But if you'd had a choice." "I did have a choice. Every day I chose to stay, to try, to open my heart. And he chose the same." Elias's father was less graceful. "You've gone soft," Richard said, watching Elias help Isabella with her coat. "I've gone happy." "Same thing in business. Then I'll be soft and successful, better than hard and hollow. Your mother made me soft once. And then you let grief make you stone. I won't make that mistake. You think you're better than me?" "No. I think I'm luckier. I found someone who makes me want to be better." Richard looked at Isabella, who was chatting with Elias's sister, making her laugh, something that happened rarely in the Thornton family. "She's changed you." "She's freed me." "From what?" "From becoming you." It should have been an insult, but Richard just looked tired. "Your mother would have liked her." "I know. Don't lose her, son." "I won't. I lost your mother before she died. Got so focused on providing that I forgot to live. Don't make my mistakes." It was the closest to an apology Elias had ever gotten. A year after their wedding, their real anniversary, they'd decided, was that night at the vineyard. Elias proposed again. "We're already married," Isabella laughed, "legally, but I want to marry you properly, choose you publicly, celebrate us honestly." The second wedding was small, 20 people who actually loved them. Isabella wore a simple dress she'd picked herself. Elias cried when he saw her walking toward him. Their vows were their own. "Isabella," Elias said, "you taught me that love isn't a transaction but a transformation. You saw past my walls to the man I'd forgotten existed. You brought me back to life with tea and kindness and patience I didn't deserve. I choose you, not because I have to, but because I can't imagine choosing anyone else." "Elias," Isabella replied, "you showed me that respect is the foundation of love. You saw my worth when I'd forgotten it myself. You gave me choices when I thought I had none. You turned an arrangement into an adventure. I choose you not because of what you have, but because of who you are." They kissed as their loved ones cheered. Real joy for a real union. 3 years later, Isabella published her 15th children's book. Elias had built a publishing house just for her work, though she'd insisted on submitting under a pseudonym first to prove her books could succeed on merit. They did, wildly. The Lonely Dragon became a bestseller, followed by The Dragon Finds Home and The Dragon's Family. "You turned me into a children's book hero," Elias teased. "You turned yourself into one." Their twins were born on a spring morning, Alexander and Sophia, perfect and precious. "They have your eyes," Elias said, holding them both. "They have your stubborn chin. That'll serve them well in business, or in art, or medicine, or whatever they choose." "Whatever they choose," he agreed, "as long as they choose love over contracts. Like we did. We had a contract that became love." "No," Isabella corrected. "We had love that outgrew a contract." 5 years after that arranged dinner, where they'd barely looked at each other, they sat at the same restaurant, this time by choice. "Did you ever imagine?" Isabella asked. "That night? No, I thought you were just another obligation. I thought you were just another cold businessman. I was. No, you were a warm man in cold armor. And you were the one who knew how to remove it. Piece by piece. With tea and patience." They laughed, comfortable in their love, their life, their choices. "No regrets?" Elias asked. "Only one." "What?" "That I didn't kiss you sooner." "When would you have?" "That first night, when you knelt before me. When you gave me choice in a situation that felt choiceless. I should have kissed you then. I wouldn't have been ready. Neither would I. But it would have been a good start. We had a good start anyway. The best end from the worst beginning. Or the best beginning disguised as the worst." Their children ran over. 5 now, with the addition of little Eliana, named for Elias's mother. "Mommy, Daddy, look what we made." Alexander held up a drawing of their family, stick figures holding hands. "It's beautiful," Isabella said. "It's us," Sophia added. "All together," Eliana concluded. "All together," Elias repeated, pulling his family close. The arrangement that had started as a business deal had become the greatest merger of all, 2 hearts, 2 souls, 2 lives becoming one, not because they had to, because they chose to, every day, forever. But their story wasn't without challenges. 6 months after the twins were born, Elias's company faced a hostile takeover attempt. The stress brought out old patterns, late nights, missed dinners, the cold businessman returning. "You're disappearing again," Isabella said one night, finding him in his office at 3 a.m. "The company needs me. Your family needs you. This is for our family. If I lose the company, we lose nothing that matters." She sat on his desk, forcing him to look at her. "Elias, we have enough money to live 10 lifetimes. What we don't have enough of is time." "You don't understand. This company is my legacy." "No. Those 3 children upstairs are your legacy. This marriage is your legacy. The man you've become is your legacy. The company is just work." He rubbed his face, exhausted. "My father would be disgusted." "Your father is lonely and bitter. Is that what you want?" "No." "Then come to bed. The company will survive. Our marriage might not if you keep choosing it over us." It was the first real fight they'd had, but Isabella was right. Elias stepped back from the day-to-day operations, promoted trusted executives, and chose family. The company thrived without his constant presence. His marriage thrived with it. "You were right," he told Isabella a year later, watching their children play in the vineyard where they'd truly found each other. "About?" everything. The company runs better without my micromanagement. The kids are happier with me present, and I'm actually living, not just existing. That's all I wanted for you, for us. When Alexander was 7, he asked the question they'd been dreading. Why don't you have wedding pictures like Emma's parents? Isabella and Elias exchanged glances. We do have pictures, Elias said carefully, but you look sad in them. Children saw everything. We were sad then, Isabella admitted. We didn't know each other. We got married for the wrong reasons. Then why did you stay married? Because we fell in love after, Elias explained. Sometimes life works backwards. That's weird. Very weird, Isabella agreed, but wonderful too. Sophia, always the practical one, asked, what if you hadn't fallen in love? Then we would have been honest about it and found different paths, Elias said. But we did fall in love, Isabella added. Slowly, carefully, truly. Like in Mum's books, Eliana said. The dragon learned to trust. Exactly like that. The children accepted this explanation, but it made Isabella and Elias think. Should we have lied? Isabella asked that night. No. They deserve truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth. What if they think love is something you can arrange? Then we'll teach them it's not the arrangement, but what you do with it. We had an arranged marriage that we turned into chosen love. That's the lesson. Isabella's father passed away when the twins were 10. At the funeral, he pulled Isabella aside one last time. I need to tell you something. Dad, you should rest. I'm sorry for selling your future, for being weak when you needed me to be strong. Dad, let me finish. I thought I was saving our family, but you saved it. You saved yourself. You made beauty from my mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It led me to Elias. That's gracious of you to say. It's true. I wouldn't change anything because changing it would mean not having him, not having our children. James smiled weakly. Your mother would be proud. You found real love despite my interference. Because of it, Dad. Because of it. He died peacefully that night, knowing his daughter had forgiven him. Elias held Isabella as she grieved, understanding loss in a way only those who've experienced it can. He gave me you, she said through tears, for all the wrong reasons. But still, then I'm grateful to him, even though he basically sold me. Even though, because without that terrible dinner, that awkward arrangement, that business deal, we'd never have found each other. The years passed with ordinary beauty, school plays where Elias cried every time, art exhibitions where Isabella's work hung beside her children's, family dinners that ran late with laughter, vacations to the vineyard where it all really began. When Richard Thornton died, alone, as he'd lived since his wife's death, Elias grieved not for the father he'd had, but for the one he could have been. He left everything to you, the lawyer said, the entire estate. Split it with Marcus, Elias said immediately. Sir, that's billions. I have enough, more than enough. Marcus has children too. Let him have half. Marcus, shocked by the generosity, asked why. Because holding on to things too tightly is what killed our father's hearts. I won't make that mistake. Isabella had never been prouder. Their children grew with values, not just wealth. Alexander became a doctor, using his trust fund to build clinics in underserved areas. Sophia became a civil rights lawyer, fierce in court but gentle at home. Eliana became an artist like her mother, her galleries raising money for women escaping arranged marriages that weren't as fortunate as her parents. We did good, Elias said on their 20th wedding anniversary, standing in the same vineyard now surrounded by grandchildren. We did perfect. Nothing's perfect. This is, not because it was easy, but because we chose it. Every day we chose it. A young couple approached them at their anniversary party, the grandson of one of Richard's business partners and his new fiancée. It's arranged, the young man admitted quietly. Our families, it's complicated. Most real things are, Isabella said. How did you make it work? Everyone knows your story. The arranged marriage that became a love story. Elias and Isabella exchanged glances. We didn't make it work, Elias said. We made it real. What's the difference? Work implies effort against nature. Real means becoming who you're meant to be. We became ourselves, and ourselves fit together. But how? The fiancé asked, looking scared. Isabella took her hand. Start with respect. Demand it, give it. Everything else builds from there. What if we don't fall in love? Then be honest about it, but also be open to the possibility. Love sometimes comes through the back door when the front is barricaded. Were you scared? The young woman asked Isabella. Terrified. I was 24, virgin, basically sold to save my family. I thought my life was over. What changed? He knelt, Isabella said simply. This powerful man knelt before me and said I owed him nothing. That's when I knew there was hope. The couple left looking thoughtful. Think we helped? Elias asked. I think we planted seeds. Whether they grow depends on them. Later that night, in bed in the vineyard house, Elias traced patterns on Isabella's shoulder. Do you remember our first night here? Every detail. Were you sure then? About us? No, but I was sure about you. About the man you were beneath the CEO. I wasn't that man yet. You were. You just needed permission to be him. You gave me that. You gave yourself that. I just held the door open. They made love like they had that first time, tender, sacred, choosing each other all over again. The next morning, over coffee and comfortable silence, Isabella said, I want to write our story. The real one. The real one. Including the arrangement? Especially that. People need to know that love can grow from unlikely soil. What will you call it? The arrangement that became everything. Bit long. The chosen marriage. Better. Isabella wrote for 6 months, telling their truth. The book became a phenomenon, not because their story was unique, but because it was honest. Letters poured in from arranged couples finding hope, from people in loveless marriages seeing possibility, from young women like Isabella had been, scared, but no longer hopeless. You gave them permission to expect respect, Elias said, reading the letters. We gave them permission. Your part matters too. The man who chose respect over entitlement. That's just basic decency, which is rarer than it should be. They established a foundation for women in arranged marriages, providing legal help, counseling, and when necessary, escape routes. Not everyone gets our happy ending, Isabella said at the first board meeting. But everyone deserves the chance for one, Elias added. At 30 years of marriage, they renewed their vows again. This time their grandchildren were the flower girls and ring bearers. 30 years ago, I married a stranger, Isabella said in her vows. Today I marry my best friend, my partner, my choice. Every morning for 30 years you've brought me coffee. Every night you've held me close. Every day you've chosen us. That's not an arrangement. That's a miracle. 30 years ago, I thought I was fulfilling an obligation, Elias replied. Instead, I found my salvation. You saved me from becoming cold, closed, calculating. You taught me that strength is in gentleness, that power is in kindness, that success is in love. You took a business deal and made it a life deal. I choose you, Isabella. Not because I have to, but because I can't imagine not choosing you. Their eldest grandchild, Alexander's daughter, whispered, Grandma, why are you crying? Happy tears, sweetheart. The happiest tears. Because you love Grandpa? Because he gave me the choice to love him. The little girl didn't understand yet, but someday she would. Someday, when she was choosing her own path, she'd remember that love is not about force, but about freedom. That night, as they had for 30 years, Elias and Isabella sat on their balcony, now at the vineyard, having moved there permanently after retiring. Any regrets, he asked their traditional question. Only one. Still wishing you'd kiss me sooner? No, wishing I'd trusted sooner. Trusted that good men exist, that you were one of them. I wasn't good then. You were good. You were just hidden. You found me anyway. We found each other. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars that had witnessed their journey from arrangement to love. "What would you tell young Isabella?" Elias asked. "The scared girl in the wedding dress?" "I'd tell her to breathe, that the man in front of her will kneel, that respect will become love, that choice will become joy." "What would you tell young Elias?" "To put down his phone at that first dinner and really look at the woman across from him." "I was an ass." "You were scared." "Of what?" "Of feeling. And I was the feeling you couldn't avoid. The best feeling. The only feeling that mattered." As they prepared for bed, their routine worn smooth by years, Isabella said, "You know what I realized today?" "What?" "We're the lucky ones. Because we found love. Because we found choice. In a situation designed to remove choice, we found it anyway. And chose each other. Every day. For 30 years. For forever." They fell asleep as they had for decades, curved together, breathing synchronized. Two people who'd become one, not through force, but through choice. Their story would be told for generations, not as a fairy tale, but as proof that love can grow anywhere, even in the rocky soil of arrangement, if tended with respect, patience, and choice. The virgin bride who'd sat trembling on a wedding night became a grandmother who changed laws protecting arranged brides. The cold CEO who'd seen marriage as a transaction became a grandfather who taught his grandsons that real men kneel before the women they love. Together, they proved that sometimes the best love stories start with the worst beginnings, and that choice, always choice, is what transforms arrangement into love. The impact of their story rippled outward in ways they never expected. When Isabella was 60 and Elias 66, they received a call that would change everything again. "Mrs. Stone, this is Maria Chen from the State Department. We have a situation." Isabella put the call on speaker so Elias could hear. "What kind of situation?" "A young woman, Amira, from a prominent family overseas. She's seeking asylum. She was forced into an arranged marriage and the situation is complicated. She read your book. She's asking for your help specifically." Isabella and Elias exchanged glances. "What can we do?" Elias asked. "She needs sponsors, people who understand her situation. The embassy suggested, given your foundation's work." "Where is she now?" "Safe house in Virginia. But she's terrified. 22 years old, speaks 4 languages, has a medical degree she's not allowed to use." "We'll come," Isabella said immediately. "Isabella," Elias said after they hung up, "we're not young anymore." "No, but we're exactly the right age to be the parents she needs." They drove to Virginia that day. Amira was tiny, brilliant, and shaking with fear. "They'll find me," she kept saying. "My father has connections everywhere." "Not here," Elias said firmly. "Here, you're under our protection." "Why would you help me?" Isabella took her hands. "Because 40 years ago, I was you. Scared, traded for business, wondering if life would ever be mine again. But you fell in love. Your story, my story is mine. Yours will be different. But it starts the same way, with someone saying you have choices." They brought Amira home, set her up in the guest house, helped her apply for medical residency programs. "You don't have to do this," Amira said. "We want to," Elias replied. "Every woman deserves what Isabella got, the chance to choose. But Isabella chose you, her arranged husband." "She chose herself first," Elias corrected. "I was just fortunate enough to be included in that choice." Amira lived with them for 2 years while establishing her new life. She watched their marriage, studied it really. "You still bring her coffee," she observed to Elias, "every morning." "Why?" "Because love is in the small things. Grand gestures fade. Daily kindness doesn't. My husband never brought me anything but fear. Then he wasn't a husband. He was a captor." Amira eventually became a doctor at Johns Hopkins. At her graduation, she introduced Isabella and Elias as the parents I chose. "You saved my life," she said. "You saved your own life," Isabella corrected. "We just held the door open." Their foundation expanded because of Amira's ideas. safe houses in 12 countries, legal aid in 20, educational scholarships for women leaving arranged marriages. "We're building an army," Elias joked at a board meeting. "An army of free women," Isabella agreed, "the best kind." But not every story ended happily. One night they received a call. A young woman their foundation had been helping had been killed by her estranged husband. Isabella cried for hours. "We failed her." "The system failed her," Elias corrected, holding her. "But yes, we didn't do enough." "How do we live with that?" "By doing more. By doing better." They pushed for legislation. The Isabella Act, it was eventually called, protecting women in arranged marriages, ensuring legal recourse, mandating consent. "You're meddling in tradition," critics said. "Tradition without consent is just oppression with history," Isabella replied at a congressional hearing. The law passed. At 70, Isabella still wrote. Her children's books now included The Girl Who Said No and The Princess Who Chose Herself. "Subversive literature," Elias teased. "The best kind." Their grandchildren brought partners home. Some were chosen by their hearts, some introduced by friends, one couple who'd met at an arranged dinner but chose to continue. "The method doesn't matter," Isabella told them. "The choice does." One granddaughter, Sophia's daughter Claire, came to them in tears. "Mom wants me to at least meet him, the son of her colleague. She says it's not arranged, just introduction, but you feel pressured," Isabella finished. "Yes." "Then say no." "But Mom says you had an arranged marriage." "We had an arranged wedding, the marriage we built ourselves, and it started with your grandfather respecting my no." Elias joined them. "Claire, meeting someone isn't commitment, but if you're uncomfortable, don't do it." "What if I disappoint Mom?" "Then she'll recover. Disappointment isn't fatal, but betraying yourself might be." Claire didn't meet the colleague's son. She met a woman at a poetry reading instead, brought her home nervous. "This is Rachel," she said, braced for rejection. Isabella hugged them both. "She's beautiful. Does she make you happy?" "So happy." "Then welcome to the family, Rachel." Love, they'd learned, came in all forms. The only requirement was choice. When Elias had his first heart attack at 75, Isabella stayed by his bedside. "Don't you dare leave me," she whispered. "Wouldn't dream of it. We have a deal, remember?" "Our deal expired decades ago." "Then I'm staying by choice." He recovered, but it scared them both. "We need to talk about endings," he said one night. "Not yet." "Isabella." "I know, just not yet." They had 5 more good years, traveling, laughing, watching great-grandchildren arrive. 5 years of morning coffee and evening wine. 5 years of choosing each other. The second heart attack was massive. Isabella held his hand in the ambulance. "I'm scared," he admitted. "I'm here." "What if—" "Then I'll find you again, in whatever comes next." "You believe that?" "I believe in us. That doesn't end with heartbeats." He survived but weakened. They moved to a smaller house, everything on one floor. "I hate being feeble," he complained. "You're not feeble. You're focused. All your energy goes to loving me now." That's all it ever went to. I just disguised it as business for too long. On their 50th anniversary, too weak for a party, they sat in their garden, surrounded by only their children. 50 years, Alexander said. "How?" "One day at a time," Isabella answered. "One choice at a time," Elias added weakly. "Tell us the story," Eliana's daughter asked. "The real beginning." So they told it. One more time, the scared virgin bride, the cold CEO groom, the kneeling, the choosing, the building of love from nothing but respect and patience. "Grandpa, would you do it again?" Alexander's son asked. "Every time," Elias said, "in every universe, I'd find your grandmother and choose her. Even if it started badly again? Especially then. The best views come after the hardest climbs." That night, lying in bed, Elias said, "I have a confession. After 50 years, I loved you before the vineyard. When? That first month. When you brought me tea. No one had ever cared for me without wanting something back. I wanted something back. What? To be seen as more than a transaction. You were never a transaction to me, even when you were supposed to be. When did you know? When you kept your mother's necklace, you chose sentiment over money. That's when I knew you were different. That's when you paid the tuition. I'd have paid anything to see you smile like that again. And you did, every day for 50 years. 50 years and 3 months. You count the months. I count the minutes, Isabella. Everyone I get with you. Elias passed peacefully 6 months later, Isabella holding his hand, their children around them. His last words, "Thank you for choosing me." Her reply, "Thank you for letting me." At his funeral, hundreds came. Business associates, family, but mostly women. Women whose lives had changed because of the foundation, because of the example, because 2 people turned an arrangement into love. Isabella spoke last. Elias Thornton was known as a ruthless CEO, but I knew him as the man who knelt before a scared girl and gave her freedom. He was known for building an empire, but his greatest construction was our family. He was known for taking whatever he wanted, but with me, he always asked, always waited, always chose respect over right. We had an arranged marriage that became a chosen love, but more than that, we had a partnership that changed laws, saved lives, and showed the world that love isn't about possession, but about permission. He brought me coffee every morning for 50 years, not because I asked, but because love lives in small, consistent kindnesses. I'll miss that coffee. I'll miss that kindness. I'll miss my choice, my partner, my love. But I won't miss him, not really, because he lives in our children's kindness, our grandchildren's choices, our great-grandchildren's freedom to love whom they choose. He lives in every woman who reads our story and demands respect. He lives in every man who chooses to kneel rather than conquer. 50 years ago, I was sold to a stranger. Today, I bury my best friend. That transformation is the greatest love story I know. Isabella lived another 5 years, long enough to see the foundation expand globally, long enough to see her 100th book published, long enough to hold her first great-great-grandchild. She died on a spring morning, the same season she'd truly married Elias in the vineyard. Died with a smile holding his picture, their children around her. At her funeral, Amira, now a renowned surgeon, spoke, "Isabella Stone saved my life, not dramatically but quietly, with guest rooms and understanding, with respect and choice. She and Elias showed me that arranged doesn't mean doomed, that love can grow anywhere if you water it with respect. They changed the world one woman at a time, starting with Isabella herself. Their children donated the vineyard to the foundation, turning it into a retreat for women rebuilding their lives. The inscription at the entrance reads, 'Love is not arrangement but choice, not possession but permission, not taking but giving. Here you are free to choose. Isabella and Elias Stone.'" Their story became required reading in sociology courses, the arrangement that became everything. Proof that love finds a way when respect leads. Years later, a young woman stood in the vineyard, reading their story. She'd fled an arranged marriage, found refuge at the retreat. "Could I ever love like that?" she asked the counselor. "That's the wrong question. What's the right one? Could you ever choose like that?" Love followed their choice, not the other way around. The young woman thought about it. They were lucky. No, they were brave. Brave enough to respect each other. Brave enough to wait. Brave enough to choose love when it wasn't required. I want to be brave. Then you already are. As the sun set over the vineyard where Isabella and Elias had chosen each other, their love story continued. Not in them, but in every woman who chose herself, in every man who chose respect, in every couple who chose to build love rather than assume it. The arranged marriage that had started with a virgin bride and a cold CEO had become legend, not because it was perfect, but because it was chosen, day after day, year after year, choice after choice. And in the end, that's all love really is. The choice to see someone, respect them, and build something beautiful together. Whether it starts with arrangement or accident, force or freedom, what matters is what you choose to do next. Isabella and Elias chose love, and that choice changed everything. For them, for their family, for thousands of women who learned they had the right to choose too. The dragon had indeed learned to trust. The lonely CEO had learned to love. And together, they'd taught the world that the best love stories aren't about perfect beginnings, but about chosen middles and earned endings. Their gravestone, side by side in the vineyard, reads simply, "They chose each other every day for always." And they did. If you've made it to the end of this story, thank you for joining this emotional journey with us. Love often comes in the most unexpected ways, from the most unexpected places. Sometimes what starts as our biggest mistake becomes our greatest blessing. Have you ever experienced a love that transformed your life in ways you never expected? Share your story in the comments below. We read every single one, and your stories inspire ours. And if this story touched your heart, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Ring the notification bell so you never miss our next emotional story. We upload new heartwarming tales every week, each one crafted to remind you that love always finds a way, even when we least expect it. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best chapters of our lives start with the plot twists we never saw coming.